In a forceful and maybe more importantly, uncharacteristic rebuke, former Vice President Mike Pence called out his former boss by name.
I heard this week that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
Since then, other Republicans who were also once staunch Trump loyalists, like Chris Christie, have backed the former vice president's words and echoed his sentiment.
I think that the actions the vice president took on January 6th spoke loudly, and I'm glad he's finally put words to it. I don't know why it took him so long, but I'm glad that he did. And let's face it, let's call this what it is. January 6th was a riot that was incited by Donald Trump in an effort to intimidate Mike Pence and the Congress into doing exactly what he said in his own words last week, overturn the election. Now, he's tried to do a cleanup on aisle one here and correcting that stuff, but it's not going to change. He actually told the truth by accident. He wanted the election to be overturned.
Joining us now, CNN anchor-in-chief, national affairs analyst Casey Hunt, and CNN political analyst David Gregory. Casey, there's an element of this which is, Mike Pence admitting the sky is blue. I get that. And he should have admitted the sky was blue a long time ago. However, there are many issues for which Mike Pence would not say the sky is blue when it comes to Donald Trump. And he's doing it now, and a lot of Republicans are backing it up. And my question is, what does that tell us in terms of Trump's grip on the party?
Well, for the most part, Mike Pence was always silent, standing next to his former boss when they were working together. And I think everybody remarked upon that at the time that it was going on. But January 6th did change the calculus, and they tried hard to convince Mike Pence that he had this power. And you're right that it is a shift that he is out there in public saying of his own volition. Note, he wasn't asked by a reporter here. These were planned remarks that he had full control over. So I think, that's a significant piece of this. It does say that the party at least is drawing a line here, or more people are willing to. And, I think you're seeing that from more Republicans, especially, and I think the context here is important. They are talking in Congress right now about passing a bill that would make it abundantly clear that vice presidents do not have this power because, of course, these lawyers, the Trump lawyers, were trying to convince us all that, oh, no, actually, he does have the full power. And it was Pence himself who had to stand up and say, no, I don't have the power. Congress wants to make it more clear that, no, in fact, the vice president does not have this power. And Republicans are justifying it by saying, hey, we don't want Kamala Harris to do this to us in 2024 if a Republican wins. That's the argument. So, and it's also part of why the former President Trump is talking about this issue right now, because this potentially takes another tool out of the toolkit if he's going to try to do something, as many Democrats are concerned, that he'll try and do something worse if, in fact, he is elected president again in 2024.
David, what do you think?
Well, I think that there is a distinction here. I think you have, in the two examples you showed, potential rivals for the nomination in 2024 who are willing to take on President Trump on still a narrow issue, which is the question of whether the vice president could do what he clearly could not do, which is somehow certify the election on his own accord. That's different than laying the blame for January 6th in part at the feet of President Trump for his actions on the day and in the days prior to January 6th. That's what Liz Cheney has done, and she finds herself more ostracized in the Republican Party right now. So that's the distinction that I'm looking for. I think there are Republicans, certainly even in the House and the Senate, who are willing to say January 6th was completely wrong, and what the president was arguing for in terms of overturning the election was wrong. I think that may be separate from whether there are real cracks in the foundation of his support.
I don't know, David, though, watching that bite again and again and again, and we've all seen it now dozens of times, Pence grabbed for the soundbite, President Trump is wrong, knowing that that will be out there for eternity, and that if they ever do face off, Mike Pence is saying his boss is wrong, and then later, frankly, un-American. And Mike Pence can read polls just like the rest of us. So to me, again, it seems like maybe he's seeing something here. Maybe he's feeling something here.
Well, look, that may be right. And again, my argument, at least this morning, is that they're willing to stake out this ground that may be narrower ground. If it got bigger, are they willing to say, not only were you wrong, but you were responsible for January 6th, which was un-American and an attack on our country, and you bear responsibility and are disqualified from ever being the president of the United States again? We'll see if we go to that point. I think that there are a lot of Republicans who maybe supported Trump and saw January 6th and said, no way. I mean, that was just, wading into the pool of authoritarianism, no more. But I think those same Republicans who might be more independent-minded, who might be softer supporters of Trump, who say, I don't want to vote for Trump, but I got to see what the alternative is. And if it's still the left that we're seeing today, I can't get there. And that's what I question in terms of how deep this opposition goes to him.
Changing subjects here, Casey, Marco Rubio, who at times has been critical of President Trump. He once said that the Trump era would not end well. He's saying this about the January 6th investigation.
The January 6th commission is not the place to do that. That's what prosecutors are supposed to do. This commission is a partisan scam. They're going after, the purpose of that commission is to try to embarrass and smear and harass as many Republicans as they can get their hands on.
Partisan scam, he calls it. What's he doing there?
Yeah, I was wondering this myself, actually, as I was watching this interview yesterday, Brianna, because you're right that Rubio has in the past occasionally been willing, more than some other Republicans, to push back against Donald Trump. I think it tells you where he now sees himself in the party. Reminder that there are two Republicans, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, on the January 6th committee. So those are at least two that are not that are not out being harassed and smeared by the committee, as he seems to allege. But he is, I think, walking the party line here. And I think, bigger picture, Marco Rubio obviously was somebody who ran for president way back in 2016. He was one of the people that Donald Trump vanquished. He is somebody who potentially has additional ambitions going forward. And I think you're seeing him try and set himself up as someone who, not necessarily in that clip, but if you watch other things he said, as a potential heir to the kind of populism, the blue-collar people who are now more willing to vote Republican than perhaps they were in the past. And I think that's all part of this. And to go back to what David was saying a second ago about where people see the party in general and whether the tide's turning, I do think there is, if you look at the numbers, a space for an alternative to the former president in the primary. I think the challenge that Republicans are going to face is the same one that they faced in 2016, which is you're going to have Trump and then you're going to have not Trump. And if there are 10 people in the not Trump category, which is kind of what it's shaping up to look like right now, then that divides their vote and leaves Donald Trump with a clear path to being renominated, especially since he still seems to control the party apparatus. Just look at the fact that they passed, a resolution essentially calling January 6th legitimate political discourse, even if they watered down their proposed censure of Adam Kinzinger and Cheney a little bit around this committee. So I know a lot of Republicans that I talked to privately who really want a way out of this Trump situation, but so far, collectively, they just haven't found a way to actually break up that strong support that's left. And if they don't figure that out, they're going to be right back in the same situation they've been in for the last 4 to 8 years.
Casey Hunt, David Gregory, have a great rest of the morning. Thanks for being with us.